Welcome into another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network from Sports Illustrated. I'm Tom Cavanaugh. You can follow myself at TCAV30 on Twitter/X. Follow our insider pages at UCLA Insider on SI, both on Twitter/X and Facebook. And today we're going to be recapping the Bruins' final win of the season, taking down Fresno State at home on Senior Day. A lot to get to. It was a tale of two halves for this team. Did not start well, but finished on the right note. Both the game and the season, they finished the year 5-7, 2-4 at home, and they take down Fresno State, who finished as 6-6, and they also were 2-4, but on the road. So just kind of breaking it down from the beginning to the end of the game. Just a quick, game recap. It was a 3-0 lead early on for the Bruins. 10 points from Fresno State in that second quarter led to a 10-6 game at halftime. The Bruins were only able to get a pair of field goals from sophomore kicker Mateen Bogani, and did not like where they were at after 30 minutes of play, down by 4 points. The offense, my goodness, Ethan Garbers was good. He threw for 144 yards in that first half, but the running game, 4 yards rushing in the first half. Fresno State did such a great job at limiting the run, holding to 1-2 yard runs, and then you had some tackles for loss on some end arounds and some plays at the line of scrimmage. So the Bulldogs played well defensively, obviously holding UCLA to 20 points. You definitely would have thought against the Fresno State defense coming from the Mountain West, where they give up a lot of points just across the whole conference, that UCLA would have more success. But they saw that more in the second half. And another stat that I wanted to mention from that first half, too, was, we talked about it all week. The Bruins had to stop committing penalties. They had 7 first-half penalties for 75 yards, which is incredible. They picked that up in the second half, sharpened that. They did better in the run game, capitalized in the passing game as well. Just in all facets, a much better game in the second half. And that's what we're going to kind of turn to here. So it's taking a 10-6 deficit into the second half with only 4 rushing yards and 7 penalties committed. Most of them, you had a couple face masks and some false starts. They went on to outscore the Bulldogs 14-3 in the second half. TJ Harden got in the end zone, the junior running back, on a short little TD run on the opening drive of the second half, and that would give the Bruins a lead they would not lose. They were up 13-10 at that point, and then they would tack on another touchdown on their final full drive. Ethan Garbers finds J. Michael Sturdivant for a 2-yard strike to put the Bruins up 20-10. Their defense was really good in the second half, holding the Bulldogs to just 3 points. That came on Fresno State's final drive. They settled for 3, cut it to a 1-possession game, and the onside kick, which they needed regardless of a touchdown or a field goal on that drive. They were unsuccessful on the onside, and the Bruins needed out and won the ball game at home on Senior Day. And a couple big game for some seniors. Ethan Garbers, 289 yards with a touchdown, no interceptions. He really turned his season around. And those final stretch of games, winning 4 of their last 6, he was really good. I know at times he would take a sack or 2. He had some uncharacteristic turnovers, a couple fumbles here and there. But overall, the kid could sling it. He completed 26 of 40 passes, which isn't great, but still 289 and a touchdown and not turning the ball over. That's a huge stat, the no turnovers there, because in a one-score game, that one turnover could really cost you a win or a loss. And then the main guy that he was throwing to, senior Maliki Matavao, his best game of his career in his 4 seasons with the Bruins. 8 receptions for 120 yards, did not get in the end zone. The only 2 to get in the end zone we mentioned, both Harden and Sturdivant. But how about Maliki, man? In your final game, you're down by 4 at halftime. You need to spark something to come back and win in your final game in a Bruins jersey, and he was incredible. He had a couple 20-yard-plus grabs. He had a 35-yard long play. That was the longest of the day, but through his 4 years, he's played a lot of football for UCLA, and he was able to post 120, his best total in receiving yards. Quasi Gilmer, the freshman, he had 54 yards on 6 catches. Titus Makayo Atimalala, he had 45 yards on 3 catches. Senior Logan Loya, he had 2 grabs for 40. And there's a guy that did not play a ton this year that really helped this team in the second half running the football. We mentioned just 4 rushing yards in the first half. 70 in the second half. They must have changed something, made some adjustments. The offensive line picked it up. And a guy in junior, Anthony Frias II, has only played in 2 games up to this point. This was his 3rd game of the year, the first one since he played against Oregon. Anthony posted 43 yards on 13 carries. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but for a team that had 4 yards at the half, him and Harden were able to combine for 66 total yards on the ground, which was nice. Keegan Jones, the senior, he added 8 yards on 7 carries, and they helped establish that ground game to get them in the end zone once on the goal line, and then also opening up the pass game because Garbers threw for 289. You can't do that without having a really solid run game as well. So it wasn't their best performance, but they got it done enough to be able to find some success and win the ball game. Once again, sophomore kicker Mateen Bagani was good, 2 of 2. His longest was of 40 yards, which was a clutch kick. Punter Brody Richter, he had to punt a lot today. He had 5 different punts for 244 yards and had 3 inside the 20-yard line, 1 of 61 yards. So in all facets of the game, especially in the second half, from the kicking and punting standpoint, those two kind of were consistent pretty much all game long. Bagani had his 2 field goals in the first half. Just an overall good win for the Bruins, making adjustments after a really bad half of football in the first. And their defense did a nice job too. 2 sacks on quarterback Mikey Keene of Fresno State. He went 30 of 43 for 219 and a touchdown, but he only had he had multiple different receivers that never really had anything crazy. The one guy, Magdalena, who we previewed earlier this week, he had just 47 yards on 7 catches. Bryson Donaldson, 44 yards on 9 catches, and Shadon James, 38 yards on 1 catch. So, I mean, you saw a couple big plays here and there from the Bulldogs, but when it came to getting in deep into UCLA territory, they just couldn't do it. They did force a fumble, did the Bruins. Jalen Moss coughed it up. That was a good turning point in the ball game. And the Bruins did not have a turnover, which was nice. Fresno State also turned it over on downs. The Bruins turned it over on downs, but Fresno State was not able to capitalize on it. And defensively, the Bruins played very well, which was impressive. Leading the charge once again, I mean, who else? Carson Schlesinger, the junior linebacker, 15 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. The senior Kane Medrano came in clutch, 8 tackles, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. And Kalen Moore played well in the secondary with 4 tackles as well and a couple pass deflections. All around a great day for the Bruins. They finished the season on the right note, and it really says something about what head coach Deshaun Foster was able to do in his final 6 games of the year. Because after a 1-5 start, this team wanted to get to a bowl game. I mean, they had to win 5 out of their last 6 games to do that. They came 1 win short, lost to USC last week, and the week before was Washington. Still winning 4 out of your last 6 games, getting 3 Big Ten wins over teams of Rutgers, Nebraska, and Iowa really says something about how this team responded and their resiliency, which is something that Foster had really preached about this entire second half of the year. So there's a lot to build off of. Obviously, there's still a lot of struggles that you have to identify over the offseason. There's going to be some seniors that are leaving, guys like Matavao, guys like Garbers, Keegan Jones. They're all going to be gone at the end of this year. Kane Medrano as well. But you got Schlesinger coming back. You got Quasi Gilmer. He's going to be a sophomore next year. Great pass catcher. TJ Harden will be a senior, hoping he stays with the program. And there's a lot to like about the Bruins coming in 2025, hoping to get to a bowl game. They've missed out their last 2 seasons. They missed out this past season. They went to one a year ago. They want to get back to that and be a team that competes in the Big Ten for a title atop the standings. So this has been the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. Your host, Tom Cavanaugh. You can follow me once again at TCAV30 on Twitter/X. Big win for the Bruins. They take it over Fresno State 20-13 in comeback fashion, outscoring the Bulldogs 14-3 in the second half. Maliki Matavao had a career-best game, 120 yards on 8 catches, with Ethan Garber slinging it, 289 yards and a touchdown. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you next time here on the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast.